Welcome to our 3ds Max tutorial for 3D modeling and animation. In this video, we'll walk through the essential tools and setup you'll need to get started. Whether you're brand new to 3ds Max or need a refresher, this guide will cover interface basics, object creation, camera setup, lighting, materials, and rendering. Welcome to 3ds Max. Before we start modeling anything, we need to set up our environment so the software works for us, not against us. This step is easy to skip, but trust me, taking just a few minutes now will save you hours later, especially when it comes to crashes, undoing mistakes, or finding lost work. We're going to start out by going to the top of the screen and clicking the Customize button. From here, we're going to come down to the bottom of the menu and press Preferences. This is where 3ds Max stores your settings, things like how often it saves, how many steps you can undo, and more. In the General tab, look for something called Scene Undo, right here. This levels of undo. Mine is currently set to 100, yours may be set to 20. If it is, then what that means is that 3ds Max will only remember your last 20 actions, which might sound like a lot, but in 3D modeling, even creating one object can take 5 or 6 actions. So go ahead and bump that up to 100. That way it remembers the last 100 steps. It'll use a little bit more memory, but it's worth it because it lets you recover from long chains of mistakes without losing your work. Once you set it to 100, go ahead and press enter. While still in the Preferences file, let's jump over to the right to the Files tab and look down here at the bottom for the Auto Backup section. This is like a seatbelt for your project. If the program crashes, which happens sometimes, you'll want 3ds Max to have saved a backup version of a file. That way you're not starting over from scratch. So down here in the Auto Backup section, we're going to make sure that Enable is checked. And then we're going to set up the backup actually to probably be about 10 minutes. For me, 15 minutes is a little long there. And then make sure that by default it's set to 10. So you can have it at 10. You should have at a minimum. I like to keep 5, but 10 is a good number as well. This means that 3ds Max will automatically save copies of your work every 10 minutes in the background. So if your computer crashes or you accidentally close the program, you'll be able to find one of those saved copies and pick up where you left off. Even with this on though, don't forget to save manually too, but we'll talk more about that later. Once you're done, go ahead and press OK. Now that our preferences are set, let's take a look around the workspace. When first opening 3ds Max, it can feel a bit overwhelming. There's panels, viewports, buttons and menus and sliders everywhere. So let's break it down piece by piece. The first thing is the viewports. That's this center window here. It's how you see and move around your 3D world. When you first open it, you're only going to have showing just the one perspective view. But there's a default of 4 views. You can access them by pressing this button down here on the bottom right, which is the Maximize Viewport toggle button, or pressing Alt-W on your keyboard, like this. So these 4 views are the top view, which allows you to see the objects looking down from above, the front view, which lets you look at the objects from the front, the left view, which you can look at the object from the left side, and the perspective view, which gives you a little more real-life view of what the object is going to look like. You can work in any of these views, but most of the modeling will likely happen in the perspective view. But don't worry, I'll show you how to control these views easily coming up in a few sections. On the right side of your screen is the command panel. This is where you create, modify, and manage objects. This is one of the most important parts of 3ds Max that you'll be using it all the time. If you want, you can click and drag the command panel outward to give yourself more room to work. I definitely recommend this for people working on laptops or smaller screens. But here's a quick overview. You have the create, which you can make shapes like a sphere, or lights, cameras, or many more. You have the modify, which allows you to change the shape and size and properties of an object. Right. Then you have hierarchy, motion, display, and utilities, which are more advanced tools that we'll get into later. But right now, let's just focus on the modify. Right now, just focus on modify and create. These are going to be your bread and butter. Across the top is the main toolbar. It has tools for undo, redo, linking, moving, rotating, scaling, as well as saving and rendering. But we'll get to these a little bit later. Right below that is something called the ribbon. It contains extra modeling tools. It's useful, but it takes up space and can be confusing at first. If you want, you can close that now by clicking this small arrow right here on the right. Along the bottom of your screen is the timeline. This is for animation. We won't be animating anything yet, so to keep things clean, you can remove this section or you can leave it there. But if you want to remove it, all you need to do is hover over the dotted line, drag that and click and drag it away from the main interface. And you see this X right here, you just press it and it closes it. And this gives you a little bit more room to work with. Lastly, we're going to go over the viewport navigation tools. In the top right, you're going to find, in the bottom right, you're going to find the navigation tools right here. You have zoom, you have pan, and you have the orbit view, which is what we're going to be using the most often. Zoom, which is Alt-Z, pan, which is holding the middle mouse button down, or orbit is holding Alt and pressing the middle button, pressing and holding the middle button down. You'll mostly use your mouse for the navigation by using those hotkeys, but it's also good to know where these buttons are in case you forget a shortcut. Before we even create our first 3D object, though, it's important to get comfortable with the space we're working in. Think of it like setting up a desk before work, doing your homework. The neater and more efficient your space is, the better results. Setting undo levels protects you from mistakes. Turning on autosave protects your work. Cleaning up the interface helps you focus on what you're going to be doing. Now that we've done all that, we're ready to start creating.